Hi guys, this is just a quick video that I want to make because I think that some people maybe have run into the same problem. I had a customer come by today and I just got back in. I just been to FedEx for a couple of trips to deliver something and I come back in and I was like, I'm closing in an hour, so I was going to make a video before then. The reason I want to make a video is these two subwoofers right here, or woofers right here, that a customer dropped off earlier today saying they don't work, they need some work, so they need to be fixed. Well, no, normally I tell people who drop these things off it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. But he didn't want to spend the money, he didn't want to look for other options, and that's his choice. So I said, okay, leave them here. I'll see what I can do and see if I can get him back to working condition. Basically, what he told me was he had him in a cabinet for 5, 6, 7 years, and that cabinet had been sitting in a storage unit that was not climate controlled. It was like hot, cold, hot, cold. You know, you got all 4 seasons here in Memphis. High humidity, a lot of excessive heat during the summer months. In the winter months, we can get like down in the 30s, in around the 40s, but the humidity is still high. So my biggest concern was how the paper cone has taken this time, and of course the spider is sagging and stuff like that. The spider on them looks to be good, so apparently he had them stored upright, so they wasn't laying down, so there was pressure on the cone or anything like that. So he got away from the sagging spider. Otherwise they look okay. But here's why I normally don't tell them that it's worth it. Gem sound. I used to sell Gem sound back in the day just because there's a lot of people who wants cheap alternatives to the better pro audio stuff. Gem sound can never be compared to some of the better or the best in DJ or pro audio or whatever. They were a cheap entry level brand. I sold a lot of it. However, this woofer can even if it's as cheap as it is, it can produce some good mid bass. You know, it can in the right box. Even the cheap woofers and the cheap subwoofers, if you build the right box for it and you don't overpower them, they can create some okay results. So the first thing I always do is I feel if there's any like, is it burnt, is it stuck? This one moves freely. There's no visible damage to the cone or the surround. There's some discoloration here and there. They're dirty. That can be fixed. That's not a big deal. There's dirt on the cones, on the frame, on the backside. There's a tiny little sag, but not enough to warrant any alerts or anything like that. The problem is, after I'd done this, I bring out my meter and I measure the resistance on the coil, the way it sits. It's never going to give you an accurate reading, but it gives you a ballpark and it shows you if it's good or bad. So then after you've done that, you have to like plug it up and see if it does play music as it should. The thing was, on both of these, this one, I saw a damage right off the bat. You can see the speaker connector, the plastic thing that was holding it to the metal frame has broken. I have to fix that. That's easy. I'll try, because I really don't want to take it off and put a new one on. I'll just do it cheap for him, because money was an issue. So I'm just gonna try glue it, and if I can make it to stay and the glue is strong enough, then we're good to go. Cheap fix. He doesn't have to spend an arm and a leg. This one moves freely. No big spider lag on it. No damages. The problem was when I brought up my meter and I put my meter on them, there was no reading at all. No reading. Zero. And that's normally a very bad sign. And that was on both of them. But lucky for me, I have some experience with speakers after almost 35 years in the business. So I have a couple of tricks. So what I did, because when you can't get a reading, and when they look like this, when they're this dirty, the terminals have a lot of oxidization on it. So what I did, I haven't done the whole thing yet, I just did a little surface area right here. I scraped it and I cleaned it a little bit, and then I put my meter on at that spot where I did that, and voila, we got a reading. We got a 4.2 ohm reading on both after I did it on both, because both was dead to begin with. So after I scratched off a little mark on the wire terminal, I got a 4.2 on this one and 4.3 on this one. So then I hooked it up to music, and it was scratchy. Well, it was a little bit scratchy, it was a little bit muted. So what I did was I sprayed inside here where you put the wires and you clamp the wires. I sprayed that with some deoxit, let it dry, took a little pipe rinser, you know, those long things that you rinse bottles with, and pipes and all kinds of stuff. I'm not sure what you call it in English. We call it piperenser in Norway. So I used that, and I kind of like stuck it in through here where the cable goes, and cleaned it out in a couple of minutes fashion, and did that on both. Hooked the cables or the wires back up, played music again, and the music was clearer, was better, no scratchiness, no noises, didn't come and go. So if you have a woofer that's been sitting around for a long time, and you like, especially if it's been sitting somewhere where it's been damaged by, not damaged, but been abused by the environment, hot, cold, high humidity, stuff like that, dirt, grime, all kinds of shit. This is copper, or copper plated in many cases. It will corrode, it will get some oxidization on it. Copper will always get like a little film on top of it. If that gets gone too far, yeah, it can block any signal that you want to get from it. So scraping it off might help. So my tip to you, and this is not only for the binding post stuff like we have here, even though this is a cheap woofer that shows binding post, I find that to be funny. They spent money on the binding post, but not on the rest of it. Jesus. So any type of binding post or speaker connector post on a woofer or speaker, if you get a 0 reading, try and scrape it or clean it and see if that helps. In many cases that have helped me, and I found out that they were good because they only had like surface issues on the contacts. So it's not only pots and stuff like that in receivers and amps that can get dirty and bad in that way. Speaker terminals as well, especially if they sit somewhere where they're being constantly bombarded with hot, cold, humidity, stuff like that. Condensation is a killer, especially for paper cones when you have them stored. So, and it doesn't really help to put them in plastic either, and I do not recommend sticking these in a plastic and seal them up, because that creates even more condensation. So and those Sika bags or whatever that you put in that is supposed to remove moisture, they are only so effective over a certain amount of time. So if you want to store speakers, there's a way to do it, and I always say do it in a climate controlled area where you have a more or less a constant temperature, a constant humidity factor, and where the condensation is not big. And if you live on the coastal lines where you have a lot of seawater, and the seawater comes up in the air and you get a lot of that in over land, yeah, store them properly. But that was not the point of this video. The point is, if you get a 0 reading from a speaker and the speaker moves freely and you can't see any typical damages, but there's no signal at all, because you want to be careful when you don't know what's wrong with them. Because if you hook up a speaker that has shorted or burnt voice coil in here, and you hook up that to your amp, you can in fact kill that amplifier, that output channel on the amplifier. So you want to take some readings with a meter first, and if you have an amp that after you've done that is you don't care about, it's just your test amp or a lab amp or something like that, yeah, then you can hook it up and test and see. But if you use the multimeter or something on them and you don't get a reading, try and clean terminals and scratch off a little bit here just to start off with. If you get a reading then, just keep on cleaning them. Rubbing alcohol, deoxit, whatever you have on hand that is good, that doesn't create any film or anything like that. You know, you don't want to use something with oil in it or something like that, or that stays greasy. You want something that dries out, okay? So that's it. That is an easy tip. But like I said, I normally don't take these in because, first of all, you can't get recon kits for them. So if this had a burnt voice coil, nah, there wasn't much I could do. He would just have to find another woofer. But since the woofer moves freely and there's no visible damage, there's no spider light, there's no rip and tear in the spider or in the surround, yeah, you can find surround for them. So that's just a regular cloth surround, untreated. That is, and that's how cheap these are. They put cloths, some type of, it's not the good cloth surround, it's a cheaper version. And you know, when you put cloth surround on them, you put this protective film on them. And they just use cloth surround here without that protective film. So that tells you a little bit of everything. But you can find these woofers on eBay every now and then for like 50-60 bucks, and they are okay for that price. You can, if you get 4 of them, you can build like dual 15s, 2 dual 15s, and use them as a mid bass, and you put 300 watts on them and you're good to go. And they give a good mid bass, but I wouldn't do anything else with them. But that's it. I'm gonna do some more cleaning, clean them up, and get all the dust and stuff like that on them. And then I want to glue this one. Probably have it done in a couple of days or so, because I'm going to be really busy tomorrow. So hopefully Thursday or Friday I have time to finish them up. So that's it, guys. Just a little tip.